On the night of April 17th, 2027, in the small coastal town of Haven Cove, Massachusetts, a strange howl shattered the tranquil air. It wasn't the wind's whisper or the growl of an airplane engine, it was a deep, reverberating sound, as if the fabric of space itself had been torn asunder. 8-year-old Liam Grayson was playing with his dog beneath a street lamp's glow when he vanished. The dog barked hysterically, but when his mother raced outside, all that remained was the leash, abandoned on the sidewalk, its end swaying as though yanked by an unseen hand. No footprints, no cries, just a fleeting pale green flash. Then silence engulfed everything. The nightmare didn't stop there. Within 2 weeks, 47 more children disappeared across the United States, from Houston's crowded streets to Montana's isolated suburbs. Each incident mirrored the last, an eerie sound, a momentary light, then nothing but discarded belongings: a shoe, a ball, an unzipped backpack. The police were powerless. The media shrieked about inexplicable abductions, and parents plunged into a wordless abyss of dread. Yet no one suspected the truth. The predator hailed not from Earth, and the true war was only beginning. Evan Carter wasn't a cop or a reporter. He was a 42-year-old plumber holed up in a dilapidated apartment on Chicago's outskirts, a quiet man whose tired eyes betrayed a life weathered by too much loss. The disappearances didn't concern him until a buzzing started in his skull whenever he passed the streets where the kids had vanished. It wasn't just noise, it was a presence, something stalking just beyond his perception. Evan possessed a razor-sharp intuition, a knack he'd dismissed as luck from his tumultuous military days. But now, it was no mere fortune. Brutal headaches began to torment him, paired with vivid dreams. Massive metallic arms descending from the heavens, dragging children into an inky void. His past was a fog. He recalled serving in a covert unit, only to be discharged abruptly without reason. Now, that buried history was clawing its way to the surface. One night, hauling trash after a late shift, Evan caught a bizarre shimmer in the air, like heat rising off asphalt, but in the depths of a freezing winter. He stood rooted, heart hammering. The next night, he set an ambush in a vacant lot near his home, where a child had disappeared 3 days earlier. Clutching a cold coffee and a battered flashlight, he waited. At precisely 3:14 a.m., they emerged, towering figures clad in glossy black metal armor, encircling a glowing device. Before them stood 5 children, frozen like statues, eyes wide with terror. Without hesitation, Evan snatched a rusted iron rod from a junk pile and hurled it at the creatures. The crash shattered the stillness. Crimson eyes swiveled toward him, and before he could blink, one charged. But his body reacted faster than his mind. He sidestepped the blow and drove a fist into its flank. No crack of bone, just a strange, vibrating pulse of energy. The creature reeled, stunned. Evan was floored too. He wasn't that strong. He couldn't be. The beings activated a spatial rift, aiming to pull the kids through. Evan lunged, seizing a girl's hand, but the suction was overwhelming. Then, a blinding golden light flared from his chest, repelling the portal. The creatures faltered, vanishing with the children as the rift slammed shut. Panting, Evan stood alone, a revelation dawning. He wasn't just a plumber. He was something greater, and this war had only just ignited. In the galaxy's shadowed reaches, the Zarketh Syndicate had thrived for millions of years, a notorious intergalactic trafficking empire that preyed on fragile civilizations. They viewed fledgling worlds like Earth as treasure troves, brimming with prized goods. Children, their pliable minds and resilient bodies a hot commodity on the universe's black market. Earth had once been untouchable, shielded by an ancient pact, but when it lapsed in 2026, Commander Krail, the invasion's architect, pounced. For 30 years, Krail had dissected humanity via pilfered radio waves and satellites. He knew they were frail, fractured, and blind to the cosmos. He launched discreet raids, snatching a handful of kids at a time to gauge their reaction. But the Chicago incident upended his scheme. Someone had intervened, a human-wielding power that defied their tech. Reviewing the footage, Krail saw Evan ablaze with golden fire. "Impossible," he hissed. "The Sentinels were eradicated long ago. The Zarketh weren't mere space raiders. They embodied ruthless precision. Targeting children wasn't just profit-driven, it was a long game. Young minds, unshaped by prejudice or cultural shackles, could be forged into anything: labor slaves, galactic soldiers. Their cutting-edge tech rift generators, sleek black armor, marked a civilization eons beyond Earth. Yet that hubris was their Achilles heel. They underestimated humanity's defiance, especially against an outlier like Evan Carter. Commander Krail was a standout predator. He didn't act rashly but leaned on meticulous study of humankind. 3 decades of intercepted signals revealed his patience and cunning. He grasped humanity's vulnerability, internal rifts in politics, economy, and culture, rendering them unable to rally against an outside foe. His opening move was surgical, quick, quiet strikes to avoid sparking a unified backlash. The subtle raids, with their green glows and haunting howls, bred chaos without leaving hard proof, keeping cops and headlines grasping at straws. The Chicago showdown was a turning point. Evan's gut reaction chucking the rod, unleashing that golden surge, not only thwarted the plan, but forced Krail to rethink his assumptions. He'd been certain the Sentinels, protectors of worlds against threats like the Zarketh, were extinct. Evan's raw, unforeseen power rattled Krail's faith in the Syndicate's supremacy. The recording from that night became the spark that shifted his approach from covert grabs to a grander, riskier play, possibly a full assault or bolstered forces to crush this emerging menace. In the unrelenting silence of his cramped apartment, Evan Carter, a man weighed down by a murky past, embarked on a quest for truth. He tore open an old trunk stashed beneath his bed, where fragments of forgotten memories lay hidden. Each item was a piece of a larger mosaic, a story he couldn't fully recall but felt etched into his bones. A weathered military ID, faded by time, bore strange numbers and symbols. Evan scoured for answers, but every search hit a dead, and no Earth database acknowledged its existence. The realization sent a shiver through him, unease slithering into his mind. He didn't belong to this world, or at least, not entirely. A dagger adorned with alien runes gleamed unnaturally, untouched by rust despite years of neglect. When Evan brushed its blade, a gentle energy coursed through his fingers, warm, familiar. He sensed the dormant power within, a force not born of Earth. The strangest artifact was a sleek, black metal orb, its surface cold and flawless. As he touched it, a faint blue light flickered to life within, like an eye stirring in the dark. The device hummed softly, projecting a holographic interface into the air. Alien symbols and shifting images swirled before him, an ancient tongue he couldn't decipher. Then a deep, resonant voice pierced the quiet. "Sentinel identity confirmed. Welcome back, Evan Carter." The voice rang with an eerie familiarity, like a long-lost comrade. Memories crashed over him, chaotic glimpses of battles on distant worlds, allies wielding extraordinary power, and a mission of cosmic weight. He recalled savage firefights against vicious alien beasts, clashes where he and his team fought to their last gasp to safeguard life. He saw fallen friends who'd stood by him through life-or-death trials. He felt the explosive surge of power in his veins, the thrill of being part of something greater than himself. Then came a cataclysmic blast of blinding light that swallowed everything. His memories, his strength, his identity, all stripped away. He'd been cast onto Earth, a nameless drifter living a mundane life. The voice snapped him back. "The Zarketh have returned. Your mission is urgently reactivated. Protect this planet." The words reverberated in his skull, a clarion call, a reminder of the duty he'd let slip away. Evan stared at the hologram as its symbols sharpened into clarity, a guiding star chart. He understood now. He wasn't just a plumber. He was a sentinel, a warrior of immense power, Earth's sworn defender. He clenched his fists, resolve igniting within. No matter how shadowed his past, no matter the enemy's might, he wouldn't falter. He'd fight for the innocent, for this world. He'd reclaim his mantle as the Sentinel. Evan Carter was no longer a solitary figure in the war against the Zarketh. He knew even his formidable strength couldn't topple a cosmic titan alone. He needed a team bold, gifted humans ready to stand for Earth. First came Nora Blake, an investigative journalist fueled by relentless zeal and grit. Nora wasn't a soldier or scientist, but she wielded a razor-sharp weapon, truth. She hunted it doggedly, no matter how deeply it was buried. Evan tracked her to a rundown motel, surrounded by stacks of notes and photos. For weeks, she'd chased the mystery of the vanishings, undeterred even as her peers gave up. Evan laid out his story, the Zarketh, his Sentinel power. Nora listened, rapt, never cutting in. When he finished, she smirked. Aliens snatching kids, and you're a forgotten superhero? That's nuts. But I've seen wilder shit this week. She didn't fully buy it, but her instincts screamed something was off, something concealed. She signed on to unearth the truth with him. Next was Jace Riley, a reclusive hacking prodigy who could crack any system. Beneath his solitude burned a kind heart and a fierce hatred for those who preyed on the weak. He'd once intercepted a Zarketh signal, mistaking it for a covert government test. When Evan showed him proof of their existence, Jace jumped in without a second thought. Jace's skills pinpointed the Zarketh's Earth hub, a clandestine base buried in Arizona's desert sands. He armed Evan and Nora with vital intel on its defenses and layout. The Alliance gained a wild card, Mia, an 11-year-old with uncanny agility and wits. One of the rare kids to slip a Zarketh abduction, she carried a shard of their alien tech she'd swiped. It granted her unique abilities and could track their lairs. Mia wasn't a fighter, but her courage roared. She craved vengeance for her lost friends and aimed to shield other kids from their fate. Evan's crew wasn't a polished strike force, but a patchwork of ordinary souls with extraordinary gifts. From varied walks of life, with clashing pasts and personalities, they shared one drive: to save Earth. Evan led as their beacon of strength and hope. Nora supplied intel and tactics. Jace shattered enemy defenses. Mia guided them and sparked their fire. An improbable band, they were humanity's final stand. The Zarketh's underground stronghold crouched deep beneath Arizona's searing desert, a high-tech bastion veiled by sand and cutting-edge stealth. Evan Carter and his team, Nora Blake, Jace Riley, and Mia, readied themselves for the treacherous raid. Jace's hacking genius crippled the base's security, paving their way in. Nora, with her combat savvy and speed, dropped guards silently with a jury-rigged stun gun. Evan, his Sentinel power blazing, spearheaded the plunge into the depths. Dim, icy corridors flickered with ghostly lights, casting a bleak pall. They crept forward, dodging cameras and traps. Deeper in, they found cryogenic pods brimming with kids' pale, fragile faces, eyes sealed shut. The sight set Evan's blood boiling. He swore to end it. At the heart of the base stood Krail, the Zarketh commander. Towering and imperious, he fixed Evan with a sneer. "The last Sentinel," he mocked. "I thought you were dead." Evan didn't answer. He drew his blade and charged. The fight erupted raw, ferocious. Krail's brute strength and battle-honed skill gave him the upper hand, his lightning strikes forcing Evan to weave and duck. As Evan clashed with Krail, Nora and Jace raced to free the kids. They smashed the cryopods, rousing the children from their icy slumber. Mia, swift and sharp, shepherded them to safety. The duel with Krail tightened. Krail unleashed high-tech arsenals, energy blasts, razor blades pushing Evan to summon his full might. He evaded, striking back with thunderous fists and slashing steel. Then Mia triggered her stolen alien tech. A bizarre energy pulse scrambled the room's gravity. Krail stumbled, crashing down, handing Evan his shot. Seizing it, Evan drove his sword through Krail's chest. The commander crumpled, gasping, "You can't win forever." The base shuttered walls split, pipes burst. Evan's team grabbed the remaining kids and bolted from the collapsing lair. They hijacked a Zarketh ship and rocketed skyward, the buried fortress sinking into the earth. After the Zarketh's underground base crumbled, Evan Carter and his alliance thought victory was theirs. They'd rescued the kidnapped children, vanquished Krail, and razed the enemy's lair. But they were wrong. A new signal pierced the silence, not from the depths of space, but from Earth's low orbit. A smooth, commanding voice shattered their fleeting peace. "Congratulations, Evan, but you've only scratched the surface." It wasn't the voice of any alien Evan had faced. It was human, yet far from ordinary. The self-styled broker wasn't a Zarketh operative, but a traitor, a man who'd sold out his own kind for cosmic power and wealth. Evan ground his teeth, rage surging within. This wasn't just betrayal. The broker was the mastermind, the architect of the abductions and atrocities committed by the Zarketh. He'd treated humans as merchandise, peddling them to alien slavers. "We have to find him," Evan said, his voice iron with resolve. Jace Riley, the hacking virtuoso, swiftly traced the signal. It emanated from a cloaked space station in Earth's orbit, a high-tech fortress built by the broker. More than a hideout, it was his nerve center, orchestrating trafficking and deals with extraterrestrial powers. Evan's team didn't waver. They knew this was the final stand, the battle to decide humanity's fate. Boarding the captured Zarketh ship, they launched into orbit. As they breached the broker's station, a heavily armed Zarketh force ambushed them. Blue energy beams tore through the void, and gleaming blades flashed in the dark. But Evan and his crew were ready. They'd mastered their synergy, wielding their skills and strengths with lethal precision. Nora moved like a specter among the foes, her agility and combat prowess unmatched. Her homemade stun gun felled Zarketh soldiers with pinpoint accuracy. Jace hacked into the station's systems, disabling defenses and turning enemy weapons against them. Mia, quick and brilliant, used her alien tech fragment to conjure protective fields, shielding her teammates from barrages. Evan, his Sentinel power ablaze, carved a path forward. His sword slashed through energy blasts, blades, and shields. His raw strength hurled enemies aside, toppled walls, and shattered doors. He was a tempest, an inferno, an unstoppable force. They fought their way to the central control room, where the broker awaited. He showed no fear, no doubt, only smug confidence in his alien-augmented body and tech. "Welcome, Evan," he purred, his tone dripping with mockery. "I've been expecting you." Evan didn't reply. He lunged, slamming a fist toward the broker's face. The traitor dodged, retaliating with a kick to Evan's gut. Evan staggered but stood firm, throwing another punch, this time at the broker's chest. The blow was blocked, but its sheer force drove the traitor back. The clash erupted, savage and unrelenting. The broker wielded alien-enhanced combat skills, superhuman speed, force fields, energy blasts from his hands. Evan countered with his Sentinel might, boosting his strength and speed, conjuring protective energy, and slashing with his blade to shred through anything in his path. They battled across the control room, smashing consoles, walls, and doors. The fight spilled into corridors, stairwells, and rooftops, turning the station into a war zone. Neither yielded. Both were hardened warriors, forged by countless battles, armed with extraordinary power. But Evan held an edge: courage, resolve, and a fierce love for humanity. He fought not just for himself, but for every innocent soul the broker had exploited and betrayed. With a final, earth-shaking punch, he shattered the broker's armored shell. A swift, razor-sharp sword strike severed the traitor's arm. The broker collapsed, staring in disbelief. You beat me?" Evan's gaze was cold, devoid of hate. "You betrayed humanity. You sold out your own kind. You pay the price." One last slash ended the broker's life. The station quaked, explosions ripping through it. Evan and his team freed the captive children and raced to their ship, escaping moments before the fortress detonated, obliterating the broker's stronghold. Back on Earth, Evan Carter watched the station's debris streak through the night sky like blazing meteors. The victory was bittersweet, a fleeting triumph weighed by the knowledge that it was but a skirmish in a grander war. The universe stretched vast and unknown, teeming with hidden threats. He glanced at Nora Blake, Jace Riley, and Mia comrades who'd faced death beside him. They weren't superhuman legends, but ordinary people with fears and dreams. Yet they'd risen, fought, and prevailed. "They'll come back," Evan said, his voice steady, brimming with determination. Nora grinned, fierce and unflinching. "Then we'll be ready." They'd proven humanity wasn't frail or helpless. They could unite, fight, and win. They'd kindled a flame of hope in the cosmic dark. Jace's screen flared with a new message from the void. Green text pulsed a warning, a dare. The predator was just the beginning. Evan gripped his sword, his eyes alight with fire. Humanity's war was dawning, with fiercer, deadlier foes ahead. But he knew they wouldn't break. They'd fight to the end for Earth, for their future. In the days that followed, Evan and his alliance bolstered their ranks, steeling for the battles to come. They forged a covert comms network, gathered intel on alien forces, and crafted new tech to defy their enemies. Nora's investigative skills unearthed the broker's ties to a larger cabal, a coalition of dark cosmic powers. Jace's hacking breached enemy systems, snagging data on their plans and arsenals, while he built firewalls to shield Earth from cyber assaults. Mia studied her Zarketh tech shard, unlocking its potential for both devastating weapons and planetary defense. Evan honed his Sentinel powers, mastering their control and wielding his sword with lethal finesse, a true warrior reborn. They knew waiting for the enemy wasn't an option. They'd strike first, hunt down and crush threats before more harm could befall them. They'd be the fire in the dark, a beacon of hope for humankind. And they weren't alone. Others out there had glimpsed the light amid the shadows, ready to rise and fight. They'd find them, unite them, and together they'd battle for humanity's tomorrow.